So these trees, well, these two trunks are done now. You know, they were taking part in making this mass so much more powerful, of course, because they were dark. Now, the colors that I've used vary a little bit from the background, and obviously different values, and they're outlined pretty strongly. So they sit forward from, they sit well forward from the background. But they also aid in, they sink into the background a little bit. So although when you look at them, you can see they're very close to you, but they don't bother you, you know, not on initial viewing of the painting, or hopefully, in fact, once the painting's done, they're soft enough now, you know. They have strength of character, but they don't have an imposing presence. The same with these rocks in the foreground. That's what I hope to do. I need to lighten that a little bit. And you know, it's kind of funny in the background here. I was planning on having it all light. I've left this area here. I haven't painted it in. I think I might go dark because it's a Zorro. You know, the Z from Zorro. I don't know how many people would remember that, but that is my secret identity. So I thought I would just leave that on the painting. So at the moment, these rocks in the foreground, I'm sort of playing with them. But at the moment they look like kind of a hurdle or a barrier to wandering into the scene. I'd like to turn them into more of an invitation into the painting. Well, I'll play with that next. So the light that I'd mentioned that I wanted to spill across these rocks, it's really the kind of light that's picking up, is being picked up from this more sunlit area here. There might be a bit of sunlight trickling in through various areas, but you know, essentially this is picking up from that, because I don't want this too strong. So I ran out of raw umber, or practically out of raw umber, and I did not want to go to town just for that one color specifically. But I came across, like in my old stash of paints, I came across some Van Dyke brown, which I tried, and I also had a little bit of burnt umber. So I've never really played with Van Dyke brown, so I mixed some of that up with cobalt blue and white, because this mostly is going to be cobalt blue and white. That's the base color for these rocks. And it was okay, but I found it just a little bit dirty. So I tried also a little bit of burnt umber, and burnt umber is not my favorite, but considering that mixing it with cobalt blue, and it's going to remain fairly toned down, it seemed to work okay. So that's what I'm using right now. Just a little burnt umber. And cobalt blue. And I'm putting in a few hints. A few hints of burnt sienna here and there as well. And just toying with some different shapes, as you can see. It's kind of nice to see these rocks become more gentle now, you know? Not quite as... don't stand out quite as much. Make sure my value doesn't go too high. my value and make sure the value doesn't go too high. My values, the values. I really have to stop saying my this and my that. I know it's my painting, but I was raised better than that. Than to talk about me and my all the time. Minimize the use of that word, of those words. I probably won't because I'm set in my ways and I'm grouchy, but, or sorry, grumpy, but you never know. There's always a bit of hope, I suppose. No, drop that value some more. Okay. Also, I think I'd like this to hook around a little bit. Just a bit. Got a good variety. Got a good variety in colors here. I like that. So, going over everything, you know, very kind of quickly, relatively, it's probably going to take me as much time to touch things up. You know, once I have a certain area in, like this area, we can consider this one mass of rock, you know, on its own. Now I'm going to go back into it, and it might not need much at all, but I'm going to take my time. I'm going to count on taking as much time with my last decisions regarding this rock, design-wise, reflection-wise, value-wise, as I counted on the actual painting of the rock. Usually it goes more quickly, but I find that if I don't mentally prepare myself to take a long time, I become a little impatient. And that's when things really go south. I'm in Canada, so I apologize to my American friends for using that terminology, but you know what I mean. Going south. Okay, sorry. Shouldn't explain it. Yeah, I think that that burnt umber works out just fine. I'm not normally a fan of burnt umber because I find that when you mix it with many of the other colors on my palette, it looks a little dirtier than if I use raw umber. If I mix with raw umber, I seem to be able to keep my colors a little cleaner, a little more easily. Might be just because I'm not used to the use of it. And it might be that indeed, you know, that's the case. But it's been my experience. So I'm pretty happy with, you know, I haven't finished these yet, but I'm pretty happy with them in general. I like some of the shapes. The way I had it sketched out originally, I liked quite a bit too. But I need to do more here. This is just kind of a blah, you know. It needs a little more design refinement. Now, what I have, Okay, I'm not going to get into that right now. What I have is a bit of a swale here in this mass of bedrock. I don't want it all to be gray, because that's just a big triangle of gray, you know, variations of gray, and a bit of light and shadow, all subtle. But I think this needs to be broken up a little bit. So my plan is to have lichen or moss sitting in the bottom, you know, where the leaves collect, the dirt collects, what have you, and just insert that to break up this area. Now, even though the swale in the rock, the direction of the cracks in the rock goes in this direction, the bulk of this, it will actually give you the feeling that the moss is heading off this way, which points to the focal area. So that works out quite well. But I still need to give myself more guides. I would like to break this rock up. I need to come up with a, you know, I could do it, that's okay. Okay isn't good enough. I need to improve on that. So that's what I'll work on next.